One day, as I was preparing dinner in the kitchen, I heard a strange noise from my daughter. "Mom, oh no, this can't be," she exclaimed. I quickly turned off the stove and rushed to the dining table where she was sitting. "What on earth is this?" I gasped in shock. To my surprise, there was a wiretap device on the table. Who could have done this, and why? My name is Gwen, a 37-year-old housewife. I live with my husband, Oscar, and our daughter, Lynn. "Mom, hurry up," Lynn urged. Okay, just a second," I replied, trying to calm my nerves. Lynn is a 10-year-old elementary schooler who loves swimming and never misses her weekly lessons. Watching her grow into a kind and cheerful girl fills me with joy. The three of us, my daughter, my husband, and I, get along very well and live happily together. But life isn't without its challenges. Our main problem isn't with each other, but with my husband's mother, my mother-in-law. She and my father-in-law live just a 15-minute walk from our house. My mother-in-law dotes on her son and has always been uncomfortable with the idea of him not living by her side. At one point, she insisted that we move in with her. She was relentless, but I was determined to maintain our family's independence. My husband, fed up with her constant interference, told her firmly that we couldn't live with her. However, my mother-in-law didn't give up easily and repeatedly insisted on moving in with us. To appease her, we eventually compromised by moving into a house within walking distance of hers. My father-in-law helped convince her, and for a while, things settled down. Even though we lived nearby, my mother-in-law continued to intrude on our lives. During the holiday season, we always had to visit her because of the proximity. Despite my husband and I trying to maintain our distance, she would use the neighbors to pressure us. "Why don't you take care of your mother? Your wife isn't doing her duty. Your mother is in pain, and she went through so much to give birth to you. As the eldest son, it's your responsibility to care for your parents," they would say, echoing her sentiments. Each time, we ended up having to go to her house to keep the peace. I wish she would be as kind to me as she was to her son, but she saw me as an enemy. Every time I saw her, she would pick on me. "When you're feeding Oscar such terrible food, I can't believe it. I feel sorry for him. I wish I could cook for him every day," she would sneer. "Mom, how can you say such things? Stop it." My husband would always defend me, but her persistence never waned. "How can it be that you've been married for 2 years and still haven't had a baby, Gwen? I think you might be infertile," she once said, shocking me with her cruelty. Even my husband was furious. "Mom, enough. We're not in a rush. Besides, having a child is a blessing, not something you can force. Don't assume Gwen is infertile based on your feelings. It could just as easily be me," he retorted, with my father-in-law backing him up. "Oscar's right. You can't predict when you'll be blessed with a child. Don't look down on Gwen just because you had a baby early," my father-in-law added. My mother-in-law finally calmed down after their intervention, but the peace was short-lived. Soon enough, she resumed her bullying. When our daughter was finally born, my father-in-law was overjoyed to welcome his first granddaughter. I hoped that having a grandchild would soften my mother-in-law's attitude, but her reaction was far from what I expected. "What? It's not a boy? Are you kidding me? It's your duty to give birth to a boy since you married the eldest son," she complained, completely disregarding the joy of the occasion. After all the pressure she had put on us to have a child, she now had the audacity to complain because our baby wasn't a boy. My husband and father-in-law were equally appalled by her behavior. It became clear that she simply disliked everything about me. As our daughter grew, my mother-in-law showed little affection for her, and Lynn, even as a child, sensed that her grandmother didn't like her. As a result, she became attached only to her grandfather. Seeing this, my mother-in-law's anger grew, and she began to treat both my daughter and me even worse. Despite Lynn being her son's child, my mother-in-law criticized her character, saying, "Even though she's Oscar's daughter, she's not of good character." The situation was heartbreaking, and I wondered how much longer we could endure her relentless negativity. I wondered if she was insinuating that Lynn only inherited my worst traits, or worse, that Lynn wasn't even Oscar's child. That was the final straw. "Please don't make such accusations," I snapped at my mother-in-law. "Lynn is Oscar's and mine. What kind of nerve do you have to say something like that?" "Oh, you're getting upset like that because you're hiding something, aren't you?" she sneered, as if enjoying my anger. "Stop it," I shouted. "You've gone too far. We're leaving." My father-in-law was out shopping and Oscar was in the other room on a work call. I quickly got Lynn ready, put on her shoes, and headed to the door. When Oscar noticed us leaving, he came over, surprised. "What's going on? What's the matter?" "I'm sick and tired of your mother's horrible attitude," I replied, my voice shaking with frustration. "Did Mom say something again?" She started questioning if Lynn is really yours. "What?" She said, "What?" His face turned red with anger, and he called out to his mother. "Mom, are you serious? How can you say such a thing?" But she didn't even flinch. I just said what I thought. "Oscar and Lynn don't look alike." "Are you kidding me? We're leaving and we're never coming back." Oscar grabbed his things, put on his shoes, and we left the house, heading home in silence. "That was ugly," he finally said as we got inside. "How insane is she? Does she have any morals at all?" I sighed. "Lynn's just entering a sensitive age. It's terrible that your mother would say such disgusting things, planting negative thoughts in her head." A little later, my father-in-law called Oscar, asking why we left. When Oscar explained what happened, his father was appalled and promised to give my mother-in-law a stern talking to. But despite their anger, my mother-in-law never stopped bullying me. I was sure she'd continue to find ways to annoy both me and Lynn. One evening, Oscar turned to me and said, "Let's stop going to my parents' house." "What? But what about the neighbors? They'll start saying things again, telling us to be good to your mother." "Then ignore them. The neighbors are just strangers. We don't need to care about their opinions." He was right, and I felt reassured. My mother-in-law might be good at manipulating the neighbors, but as Oscar said, we just needed to ignore them. We used to feel guilty every time one of the neighbors criticized us, but now I didn't care what the outside world thought. We were united as a family, and that was all that mattered. After that, we stopped visiting my in-laws. My mother-in-law tried contacting Oscar, asking why we hadn't come over, but we stood firm. We were done letting her control our lives. I couldn't fathom how she even managed to contact him like that in the first place. Did she not realize she was the cause of all this? Or did she simply want to see her son, knowing full well she was doing the worst possible thing? Regardless, we were resolute. We would never go to my in-laws' house again, and we certainly wouldn't allow my mother-in-law to come to ours. As we started living like this, the neighbors began to meddle, offering their unsolicited opinions. But I didn't pay them any attention anymore. I would politely thank them for their concern and pretend to listen, but inside, I was completely indifferent. Thanks to this newfound distance, we were finally able to live peacefully for a while. My daughter no longer had to see her mean grandmother, and she seemed happier every day. I found myself wishing we had cut ties with my mother-in-law much sooner. By the way, my father-in-law never did anything wrong, so we still met him for dinner occasionally without my mother-in-law's knowledge. My daughter adored her grandfather and loved these dinners with him. We were enjoying our lives and spending happy days together. But then something unexpected happened. One day, as I was preparing dinner in the kitchen, I suddenly heard my daughter make a startled noise. I wondered what she was up to, but I was in the middle of cooking and couldn't step away. I decided I'd ask her about it later. "Mom, I can't get it off," she called out, sounding surprised. "What's going on, honey? Come see this. Hurry. I'm putting the pot on the stove. Just give me a moment." "Please, just come," she insisted. Sensing her urgency, I turned off the stove and hurried over to the dining table. What? What is this?" To my shock, there was a wiretap sitting right there. "Who did this, and why?" I whispered. "Mom, this can't be happening." My daughter was starting to panic. Quickly, I covered her mouth and typed a message on my phone. "Don't say anything. We don't know who might be listening." She nodded silently, understating the gravity of the situation. There might be other wiretaps in the house, and we had to be careful. I stepped outside and called the police. When they arrived and conducted a thorough search of the house, I learned something truly shocking. They found one wiretap under the dining room table, another in our bedroom, and yet another in my daughter's room. We were horrified. We had no idea how long this had been going on, but someone had been eavesdropping on our private conversations at home. The police explained that the placement of the devices suggested it wasn't the work of an amateur. They warned us that now that the bugs had been discovered and removed, the person responsible might come back to check on them. The police advised us to be very careful and assured us they would increase patrols in the neighborhood. My husband had just left on a business trip that day and wouldn't be back for a while. Given the circumstances, it wasn't safe for my daughter and me to stay in the house alone. We decided to stay at my parents' house until my husband returned. I didn't want to alarm my husband while he was on his business trip, as it might distract him and cause unnecessary worry. I decided it was best to wait until he got home to tell him what had happened. My parents were deeply concerned when they heard that our house had been bugged. They were furious that someone would do something so vile, and insisted that whoever was responsible needed to be caught as soon as possible. My daughter was also very upset and scared. "Mommy, I forgot my stuffed bunny," she said, her voice trembling. "Oh, you did," I replied gently, noticing how close she was to tears. She always slept with that big stuffed rabbit as her pillow, and in her current frightened state, there was no way she'd be able to sleep without it. Seeing her distress, my father immediately suggested we should go and get it for her. "I'll go with you," I agreed. "Thanks, Dad," I said, grateful for his support. Together, my father and I returned to the house. We were both on edge, aware that someone could be lurking around. Moving cautiously, we entered the house and retrieved the stuffed animal from my daughter's room. Just as we were about to leave, we suddenly heard the front door unlock. My father and I froze, covering our mouths to stifle any sound. Footsteps echoed down the hallway, and my heart raced so fast I thought it might burst. My father stood protectively at the entrance to my daughter's room, his eyes fixed on the hallway. The footsteps passed by us and headed into the living room. It became clear that the intruder was likely there to retrieve the bug from the dining room table. My father and I exchanged a look. We needed to get out while we still could. Quietly, he opened the door and peeked into the dining room. "What? Oh my God," my father whispered in shock, his eyes widening in disbelief. I whispered angrily to my father, "Dad, don't make a sound." He turned to me with a puzzled expression and asked, "Is that Oscar?" "What?" I whispered back, shocked by his words. Unable to contain my curiosity, I slowly opened the door and peeked into the living room. To my astonishment, there was my husband, checking under the dining table. I couldn't comprehend what was happening. Why was my husband at home when he was supposed to be on a business trip? And why was he examining the spot where the bug had been found? "What are you doing?" I asked, stepping into the room. He froze, startled, and then turned to me with wide eyes. "What are you doing here?" he stammered. "That's my question," I shot back, my voice trembling with confusion and anger. "I thought you were on a business trip. What's going on here, Oscar?" He started to stammer. "Oh no, it's just that." Before he could finish, the front door opened, and we heard a high-pitched, familiar voice. "Oscar, did you recover the listening device?" It was my mother-in-law. "Mom," Oscar began, but then he noticed her shocked expression as she finally realized we were standing there. "Why? What's going on?" I demanded, slowly piecing the situation together. "Oscar, you did this with your mother? You bugged our house?" Seeing no way out, my husband's shoulders slumped as he began to explain. Because you're having an affair, aren't you?" "What?" I was utterly baffled. "What are you talking about?" "The neighbors. They said they saw you with some guy, walking around, letting him into our house during the day, and even going into a restaurant together." I stared at him in disbelief. "What are you saying? I have no idea what you're talking about." "I kept getting reports of your supposed affair from different people, and I started to think you were being unfaithful," he admitted, his voice cracking. "Mom even said that Lynn and I don't look alike, so I talked to her about it. She convinced me to bug the house to get evidence of the affair. So I did it, and when the wiretap suddenly stopped transmitting on the day I said I was going on a business trip, I thought something was wrong, so I rushed back to check on it." My mind reeled as his words sunk in. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "Unbelievable," I muttered, feeling a surge of anger. "You did all of this because you believed baseless rumors? You let your mother manipulate you into thinking I was cheating on you? But when you keep hearing something like that, you start to believe it, don't you?" He tried to justify. "Don't be ridiculous," I snapped. "Do you really think I would do such a thing? If you can't trust me, why did you just hire a private detective or something? And if you doubt that Lynn is your daughter, why not just do a DNA test instead of this insane behavior?" Oscar's face crumpled as he realized the gravity of his mistake. "I'm sorry. I was wrong. I did terrible things to you. Please forgive me." But it was too late. I shook my head, tears of frustration welling up in my eyes. "It's too late to apologize. I can't do this anymore. Let's get a divorce. No, please, he begged, desperation in his voice. I was wrong. We're a family, right? Let's stay together as a family. That's enough, I said coldly. I'm so disappointed in you. I can't stay married to someone who so easily believes rumors. Just then, my mother-in-law interjected with a spiteful tone. Oscar, aren't you glad you're getting rid of this woman? I'm sure she's having an affair, even if she's hiding it. You should get rid of this woman and her daughter once and for all and find someone new, my mother-in-law spat out, even in the middle of such a tense situation. Before I could respond, my father stepped in, shielding me. Why would the neighbors lie like that? Did someone make them say it? What do you think? He stared intently at my mother-in-law. She flinched but quickly retorted, I don't know. Why should I know? My father didn't back down. If this is all based on lies, then it's a serious issue. My daughter could sue the neighbors for slander. That's right, he continued. Because of the neighbors' rumors, Gwen and Oscar's marriage is falling apart. Should we start telling them now that we're going to sue? My mother-in-law instantly panicked. That's too much. They were probably just joking. My father pressed on. A joke? That's even worse. They should be held accountable. Why not? You can't do that, she protested, her voice shaky. Why not? My daughter is being falsely accused of infidelity. People who spread lies like that should be punished, my father declared. He then turned to me. Gwen, let's go. I nodded, slipping on my shoes and heading for the door. But just as we were about to leave, my mother-in-law broke down, tears streaming down her face. It's me. I told her neighbors to give Oscar false information. I stopped in my tracks, shocked. I took off my shoes and turned back to face her. Is that true? She nodded, still on her knees. Yes, I thought that if Oscar divorced you for having an affair, he'd come back to live with me. Oscar's eyes widened in disbelief, and then his face twisted in anger. Mom, you've got to be kidding me. What were you thinking? Don't you feel ashamed? He turned to me. When I had nothing to do with this. It's all her. But I met his gaze coldly. No, Oscar, you're the one who bugged our house. I don't trust you anymore. Lynn and I are done with you. I'm divorcing you. With that, I left the house with my father, leaving both my husband and mother-in-law slumped on the floor, their faces pale with shock. Later, I went straight to my lawyer to begin divorce proceedings. I also confronted the neighbors, offering them a deal. In exchange for not suing them, they had to tell me every detail of what my mother-in-law had asked them to do. They confessed everything, confirming that she had orchestrated the entire scheme. As a result, the court accepted my claim, and I was awarded alimony and child support. My mother-in-law's actions even led to her own downfall. Her husband divorced her and kicked her out of the house. She tried to cling to Oscar, but he wanted nothing to do with her after realizing she had caused our divorce. Now, she's living alone in a small apartment, working part-time to make ends meet. As for me, I got a new job and started working full-time. My parents helped me take care of Lynn, who has moved on from her father and is putting all her energy into swimming, something she's loved for a long time. I'm determined to work hard and build a good life for her, focusing on what matters most, her happiness and well-being.
Hi, I'm Faith, a 30-year-old stay-at-home wife. My husband Jake and I have been married for 2 years. We don't have kids yet, but we talk about wanting at least 2 every day. Lately, though, things between us have been a little off. Now that we've been married for 3 years, our relationship has cooled, and I'm finding myself in a tough situation. We used to be so in love. I don't understand how I got to this point. Every day, I'm exhausted, we barely talk, and the atmosphere is so heavy. I'm constantly worried about what kind of emotional damage I'll take when I get home. I'm so tired right now. This is serious. Hey, I'm home. Oh, better watch out not to step on any emotional landmines today, or things will get really bad. My company can't even appreciate my talent. It's over. What's going on? Did something happen? I've been struggling at work. My pay keeps dropping, and now they told me I can take next week off. Oh no, that means another pay cut. It's become a regular thing to come home, complain, break stuff, or drink with coworkers when things go wrong at work. Since Jake's company allows side gigs, Many of the parents are already doing extra work. Jake talks like he's doing a lot, but he just complains and doesn't actually take any steps forward.
Given the current situation, you should start saving more money too.
If we need to save, I'm already doing my part. I'm working really hard. I turned down lunch invites from my friends, and I haven't been to a girls' night out in ages.
Your husband is working hard outside, so how can you go for lunch or girls' night? How can you use money for eating out without my permission? How dare you?
You're the one who comes home drunk from speaking your mind, but when I suggest going to lunch, I get shut down. It's exhausting.
Just follow what I'm saying. Got it?
Yes, I understand. If I say anything back, it'll only make things worse between us. Besides, no one would really understand how I'm feeling in this situation, so I just comply to avoid more conflict. We've been bankrupt for a while now, so I suggest I can work as part-time. But Jake's pride wouldn't allow it. He hated the idea that people might think he wasn't earning enough if his wife had to work. But honestly, our finances are a mess. I'm doing everything I can to save. I buy cheap produce, cut down on heating costs by layering clothes, and I can't even remember the last time I bought myself new clothes. But I stay quiet about it. I'm getting angrier and more stressed, but I just keep tolerating it. The only comfort I have is talking to Grandpa, my neighbor next door.
Oh, Faith, did you argue with Jake again?
Yeah, you know how it is. He's always stressed out from work, but he still doesn't forgive me. It's tough. Grandpa always listens to my complaints and frustrations without judgment. He's not only a great listener, but also gives spot-on advice.
If you're struggling financially, why don't you try making money from home?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it, trying to figure something out.
That's the solution. Working from home might be just what you need.
You know what? You're right. That could actually work. If I work from home, I wouldn't cause any trouble, and I wouldn't hurt Jake's pride. I have a computer at home, so I decided that if I could make some money, I'd start working from home. Of course, I talked to Jake about it too. Jake wasn't very happy about it. Even though I was serious, he just laughed it off.
You, working from home? That's a joke, right? You can't do this. You're just a regular housewife.
He said something like that, implying that people who don't understand the real world are clueless. You won't know until you try. I know making money isn't easy, but I'm still managing all the housework too.
Don't be lazy. You won't be able to do it anyway, and don't come crying to me if you get tricked into debt or something.
I know. Even with all these doubts and insults, I started working from home. At first, I couldn't make any money, and I quickly realized how hard it is to earn even a small amount. But I refused to give up. I kept working hard, little by little, and eventually started making a bit of money. I was so happy. Then one day, Jake was in a terrible mood, worse than usual.
Are you even doing the housework anymore? Or are you just wasting time on the computer?
Of course I'm doing the housework, then working. But he couldn't care less.
Come on, that's not real work. You're just playing around and pretending to be busy. You haven't even been going to your company. I'm the one under all the stress from a real job, and you're just sitting around.
Even though I had started to make some money and get back on my feet, Jake kept insulting me. I couldn't take it anymore. I glared at him, furious at his rude words. Jake got even angrier and started shouting.
I'm the one supporting this family. Why are you complaining about me? You should be grateful. You're just a housewife. Be thankful to your breadwinner. If you don't like it, then go live on your own. I don't need a useless wife like you anymore. Get out of here.
His heartless words were too much. I couldn't stand it any longer. Fine. I've been thinking the same thing. Jake looked shocked. Maybe we'd both be better off without each other.
Wait, what?
I ignored him. I packed the bare essentials into a bag and walked out without needing any more discussion. Jake was panicking, trying to stop me, but I ignored everything he said. I left the house and headed to my next destination. I had talked to Grandpa before, so he probably expected something like this, though I doubt he thought it would go as far as divorce.
What on earth are you doing here at this hour?
I just can't stay with Jake anymore. He keeps saying horrible things.
That's awful.
At first, Grandpa listened to me calmly, but as I told him more, his face turned bright red with anger.
This is unacceptable. You're not leaving without a fight. Let's show him a thing or two.
Yeah, let's take our time with this. About a month after I left, Jake changed his tune and came to see me.
Faith, please come back. I'm drowning in bills. I can't handle everything by myself. Please, I need you. And I haven't had a decent meal in weeks.
His voice was shaking and his lips were trembling.
It's my fault. Please come back.
Even though he looked pathetic, I responded coldly. No matter how much you apologize, my feelings won't change now. I've completely forgotten that 100-year-old love. Besides, you might need me, but I don't need you.
But how about financially?
When it comes to finances, I'm more than capable of making money on my own. At first, I started working from home just to make ends meet, but now it turns out I'm actually really good at it. I'm earning over $10,000 a month now, and I feel like I can keep growing my business. That's why I don't need someone who just gets in the way of my work. I'm earning over $10,000 now.
How? That's a lie.
It's true. You couldn't even keep up with me. So please stop begging.
I need you. I've got bills piling up, and they're about to cut off the electricity, gas, and water. I used all the money in the credit cards. The rent's overdue. I can't make it without you, Faith.
Jake cried, but the more he glued to me, the colder I felt. Why were we even having this conversation? It's a waste of time. If I had time to sit here talking, I'd rather be working. You looked down on me all this time, and now you're asking for help? Pathetic. We're getting divorced, so stop saying things like that.
I'm sorry for everything.
Don't even try that. I've already recorded everything, so expect alimony. When I said that, Jake just looked down in defeat. After a while, he bowed like he had given up. We got divorced, and Grandpa introduced me to a lawyer he knew. We settled on alimony, and Jake got kicked out of his place because he couldn't pay the rent. He ended up drowning in debt and turned to drinking and gambling. Eventually, collectors showed up at his workplace, and he was fired. Now he's stuck in a live-in job, trying to avoid the collectors chasing him. Meanwhile, I'm happily living with Grandpa.
The other day, I walked past a park near the station and saw a new cafe sign next to it. They have all sorts of parfaits on the menu.
I really want to try their pudding parfait.
Let's go together sometime.
That sounds great.
I heard they've got some rich parfaits and even a curry one. I'll give it a shot. It's amazing.
Well, that's worth checking out. Get me a ticket, too.
Of course, I'll make sure to save a spot for you.
I'm doing everything I can to keep things going. I'm really happy now.
If that's the case, we've got plenty of time ahead of us.
Let's stay healthy and enjoy ourselves.
Wait a minute. I have something important to tell you. It's about what's to come. The important thing is...
Dad, my name is Valerie Daniels. I'm a 42-year-old full-time housewife. Currently, my husband Ben, I, and father-in-law live together. Originally, I was working as a nurse, but I met Ben, who was hospitalized, and we got married. For the first 2 years of our marriage, we lived in a rented apartment. But one day, after our third year of marriage, my father-in-law collapsed and became partially paralyzed. So I quit my job and started living at my in-laws' house to take care of him.
Haven't you prepared dinner yet?
I'm sorry, I haven't prepared yet. I took Father to the hospital today.
You're not good at doing things. You're supposed to take care of my father and do the housework. Saying that you took him to the hospital isn't an excuse. Who's going to feed me? You're a housewife, right? Do your job well.
I'm sorry for being late, but it was you who asked me to quit my job, right? That's not the way you say it.
Ha! I'm so tired when I get home. In fact, you only move your mouth. I'm taking a bath. Get it ready while you're at it.
When I first got married to my husband, Ben, he was a sincere and considerate person. He actively helped me with the housework and comforted me every day. Even after I moved into my in-laws' house, he was grateful to me for taking care of my father-in-law. But slowly, Ben started acting like everything was normal and stopped helping. I couldn't get Ben's cooperation, and with my father-in-law's care, I didn't feel like having a child. Before I knew it, 15 years had passed. Ben started calling me an incompetent wife who couldn't even have children. Year by year, Ben's personality grew colder, and he used to call me by my name, but now he doesn't even do that. Our relationship became very distant. The reason I was staying was because of my father-in-law who needed my care.
Valerie, thank you for today.
Not at all. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong, so that's good.
But it doesn't change the fact that it's becoming a burden.
Still, it's too early to give up. Let's do our best together.
Thank you so much. You are too good for Ben. Did he say something to you today?
He didn't say anything to me again today.
It's my fault. I warned him many times, but he didn't listen. After 13 years of living with you, I can always tell when you are lying. I'm really giving you a hard time. If you keep up this relationship with Ben for my sake, it's not a good thing. Don't worry about me. I want you to pursue your happiness.
What are you talking about? We're family.
I see. I'm really sorry.
At times like this, it's okay to say thank you.
That's right. Thank you.
My father-in-law is a very considerate person, unlike Ben's domineering attitude. He always has a gentle smile and speaks kindly to me, always expressing gratitude for my care. Because of my father-in-law, I've been able to care for him with all my heart. I love my father-in-law, and I plan to continue caring for him. Ben's stress has been building up, but I've gotten used to it. As long as I don't expect too much, life is pretty manageable. But one day, I noticed a crack in my daily routine. One day, my father-in-law's condition suddenly worsened, and he had to be rushed to the hospital. The doctor said his condition was severe, and he would need to be hospitalized for a while. It was an emergency, so I called Ben, but he didn't answer. It looked like he went out instead of working. Father, are you awake? Are you hurt anywhere? Are you okay?
I'm fine, thank you. I just had a bad dream. I might not have much time left.
What are you talking about? Please, don't even say things like that. I think Ben will come soon, so I'll talk to the nurse.
Please, wait a moment. I have something important to tell you. That's all for the future. The important thing is...
Dad. In the end, I couldn't contact Ben on the day my dad was rushed to the hospital, and the only time I was able to talk to him was late at night. Where have you been?
No matter where you are, don't interfere in my private life.
Did you see the message?
My father was taken away.
Why are you coming home at this hour? Aren't you worried?
I can't help it. I'm busy in my own way, and my father is often taken to the hospital. He's used to it, but there's no sense of urgency.
I tried my best to stay calm, but according to what the doctor said, it's quite serious. It seems like the situation is urgent.
That's probably because you weren't taking care of my father properly. There's a problem with your care. That's why my father's health deteriorated. It's your fault.
Well, don't just put yourself aside and shift the responsibility onto me.
Oh yeah, that's right. In that case, I'm busy with work, so you can go to the hospital and take care of my father. I'll finish my work, so you can too. But I might go visit him after work. I can't make any promises. If I feel like it, I'll go.
We haven't finished our talk.
I'm still tired.
No matter how many negative things he says to me, I don't mind now. But I couldn't ignore the way he treated his father so roughly. I wonder if he's really human. After that, I went to my father-in-law's hospital room every day. On the other hand, Ben never came to visit him. A month after my father-in-law was hospitalized, he passed away. I cried more tears than I expected. That's how much I loved him. At that moment, Ben appeared in front of me in a panicky manner and made some horrible remarks.
Yes, I can leave you now. I'm divorced. I'm done with you. Let's get divorced. I have a mistress and a hidden child. Yes, I have a new wife. She's beautiful, and we even have a young, fashionable, and cute child. She's a 180-degree different person. Hey, you can come in.
Excuse me?
I'm so excited.
I mean, were you cheating on me?
Well, on paper, you're my wife, but in my heart, you're not. My favorite is Rose.
Thank you for all your hard work and caring for my father. I'm the one who'll make Ben happy now. I can't believe it. I can't imagine what father-in-law would think if he were still here.
He's also a man, so he can at least understand my feelings. She cannot have children. She's not beautiful enough, and she's not young either. She's always aggressive towards me, and I can't live like that for the rest of my life.
After all, I'm young and beautiful here, and I have to heal Ben's tired heart. Valerie, you were his father's caregiver, so please don't get involved with Ben from now on.
Hey, I think being a caregiver is an exaggeration, right?
Well, anyway, Ben, who doesn't answer, is a kind person. If that's the case, he'd have taken care of his father. I think he was proactive about it, and I don't think he would cheat on me. But even at a time like this, how can you report cheating?
Ha ha ha. Whatever. I'm divorcing you.
I will ask you for the compensation.
Oh, consolation prize. Well, I'll pay you a little more than the fair market price because you've been taking care of us as a housekeeper, and I'm my father's son.
Oh, Ben, that's rude.
Don't say that, Rose.
What should I say? I was really disappointed. Okay, let's get a divorce.
Then leave now.
I can't help but see my father-in-law one more time. He has been so indebted to me.
Please, don't come back to this house.
I will be Mr. Ben's wife. I'm going to see his father off, so please be gone when I return. I'll leave after the funeral is over, so feel relieved.
Then we'll eat a little food. Get ready.
Did you really stop being a human being? The reason I continued my marriage with him was because of my father-in-law. I was worried about my father-in-law, so I wanted to be with him. So I endured Ben's continuous care, but my father-in-law left. There's no reason for me to be with him right now. I was thinking that as I was going to ask for a divorce someday, so it was a good thing. I filled out the divorce papers without any hesitation. All that's left is this baggage, and I'm busy. The funeral was over in a blink of an eye. I packed my belongings in a cardboard box and called a contractor. Thinking that this would be the last time I would see this house, I thought back to the days we spent. As I thought about it, my tears naturally spilled out. Although there were many difficult times, I had a lot of fun. My father-in-law expressed his gratitude to me a lot, and I would like to thank him as well. Thanks to him, I was able to grow in many ways.
Hey, are you done packing your bags?
Yes.
Well then, just leave quickly.
Sure, and you will pay for this.
Of course, whether it's alimony or alimony for cheating, I'll give you as much as you want. Don't worry.
You're in a good mood.
That's because my standard of living will be higher.
You're really over it. Also, no matter what happens in the future, don't ask me for help. It's disgusting, so I don't want to get involved with it anymore. In fact, don't get involved at all. It's a waste of time.
You're a disgusting person from the beginning to the very end. You're going to be a lonely person with no food, so you'd better watch out. I think you'll see hell from now on, but live strong.
I wonder if that's what you're telling yourself. It's nothing. Goodbye. Please don't show me your dirty face again. I will disappear from his presence without leaving a single regret. Now that I am free from him, let's have a glass of wine. The hospital might be a good environment. It's been 2 weeks since I moved to a new house and started living alone. My days are filled with job hunting hobbies and meals with friends. One day, that man contacted me again. I asked you not to get me involved, didn't I?
What do you mean? You must have done something. Don't get me wrong. A real estate agent came and suddenly kicked me out of the house. Besides, I don't get my father's inheritance.
What do you mean? You're not a son. You're so timid.
I'm my father's son.
If you were a son, you'd worry if your father got sick, take care of his care, and not leave everything to your wife.
That's your interpretation.
Well, no. Father said that you were no longer his son. Instead, he said that I was his daughter.
That's right.
You thought that you would receive an inheritance, so you gave up on me and paid me a lot of alimony. That's what I said, but I'm afraid your assets don't have that kind of freedom.
That's a lie.
It's true. Your father gave me the house and property in my name as a gift before he died. I asked a real estate agent to sell it to me, so hurry up. Well, now I don't have any free time.
Just wait. Anyway, I'm related to my father by blood, so it's strange that I don't receive any of that benefit. I don't understand. This is all your fault.
I don't have any attachment to father-in-law's inheritance, but I don't want it to fall into your hands. If I were to give it to you, you'd waste it, and I'd use it for volunteer work. I'm sure your father would be happy with it. I don't care how much you try to threaten or confuse me. I'm fine with you. There's nothing to worry about, so stop wasting your efforts. Also, please give me the alimony as soon as possible. I'd like to say that you should pay it all at once, but I'm giving it to you in installments.
About that, there's no evidence that I did that.
It's obvious if we trace back when your hidden son was born. I also have the audio of your confession.
Look, of course, I'll pay you any amount you want, whether it's alimony or compensation for cheating on you.
Don't worry.
You must be kidding.
If you're headed to hell, you'll also have a financially difficult life. But that's not all.
What do you mean?
I have contact information for your company.
Don't you dare do that.
I have already done it. You're going to have such a rough life now. I wonder how many times your coworkers will look at you with disrespect. You can't quit your job. No, it's just a ticket to hell.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Your father's inheritance won't go to you. I'll ask for compensation without hesitation. I'll even contact the company. Just give up. You have your lover so close to you, aren't you, Rose? Good luck with trying to change him. I'm sure Ben will lead a stupid, trashy, and rough life, but I hope you'll do your best. You won't receive an inheritance either. You have to look for a house. It's my home. Really? Also, I won't hesitate to ask for compensation from you, too. If you don't pay it properly, you'll be threatened by a lawyer. The scary speed will come, so be sure to protect yourself. Also, the company you work for is a full-fledged dream. I'm sure companies will look at you coldly, but you'll just have to stay strong and wait. You can't do that. I'm sorry. I'm a rude person just like you, so if I have to do something, I'll have to do it to the fullest. Please, be prepared for this to happen. You've been so talkative, but you can't find the words to say. Give up?
Please, give me a break. I'm really remorseful. It's all a lie, right?
It's a lie. Maybe you'd be happier if you lived your life thinking about it, but unfortunately, it's all true. Because of your dirty personality, you lost your inheritance, your hard-working wife like me, your social status, your savings, your house, and your title of being your father's son. You're losing yourself and regretting your actions all the more.
It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie.
Yes, I don't have time to live with your depression. Well then, one last thing. The love I had for you, even though I had a terrible marriage, was worthless. Unlike you, who disappeared a long time ago, I was able to stay in that house because there was a kind person there. Since your father passed away, I have no use for you anymore. The only person I cared about was your father, who knew that you were going to go to hell. If you don't want to see more hell than this, then you should become a kinder person. I don't think it's possible to follow your father's example, but please don't contact me again. Goodbye.
Wait.
Today, the starry sky is beautiful. It felt like his father was blessing me from the sky with all the hard work I had put in. Later on.
Rose, have you used the cardigan without permission?
I guess I can't help it. I'm doing my best too.
So, what's wrong with this messy room? You're a housewife, right?
I'm working hard. I'm taking care of myself. And depending on whether you're nice to me or not, I will release my stress.
Well, that can't be helped.
That woman tipped off my office about my affair, so I was secretly teased and bullied.
Yeah, it was the same for me. Why was it supposed to be like this? Now that I think about it, Valerie was a good wife.
Of course, there was no inheritance from his father to Ben. All that was left was the alimony from his affair, and he is suffering from his wife's overspending habits. It seems like their bank account balance is decreasing by the day. It's even more difficult since they also have a child, but there's no room for sympathy. So I informed both his workplace and his girlfriends about the affair. Rose retired and is now a self-proclaimed housewife, and Ben is working hard to support his family and pay me alimony. Maybe if he had put aside the affair and cherished his father, at least things might not have turned out like this. I'll never see him again, but he's still a father, and I hope he'll become at least a decent human being. On the other hand, I went back to work as a nurse, and I'm busy working every day. I want to support as many patients as my father-in-law. After having fought sickness with father-in-law, I started to want to work in the medical field again.